What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Winners Win podcast presented by iKon Boats and, of course, hosted by your host here, Braden Cox. Today, we're joined by some special guests here. It's Major League Fishing national champions for the high school on Lake Hartwell. They just won a couple weeks ago. We welcome Trent Carey and Josh Kauffman. Congratulations, guys. It has to feel pretty special to have national champions behind your name now, and still probably not feel too real for you guys.
Yeah, that win's definitely special. I mean, national champions, what you chase the whole time, so to actually get it, it's unbelievable.
And like you said, that's just your whole goal of high school. And I believe from what I saw, you guys just actually graduated. You guys are both seniors graduating.
Yeah, that was our last tour.
That's awesome to get a win on such a huge stage and such a huge level. Is it true that I saw those like over 400 boat tournament?
Yeah, 451 I think was the final count.
So that's great. I mean, that's an absolutely insane number of boats for one tournament, and to be able to come out on top of that, and it's a little bit different format for you guys too, with the 3 fish limit.
Yeah.
And that's just insane for you guys to do that. So we'll dive into your win here in a minute, but before we get too deep into it, just for anyone that doesn't know who you guys are, if you could both introduce yourself, give where you guys are from. We just said that you guys are both seniors that are graduated, and I always like to ask, if you guys could only fish with like one technique the rest of your life, what would that be?
Yeah, I'm Trent Carey. I'm from around Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. One technique. Give me a jig. I like to swing hard.
It's hard to beat it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm Joshua Kauffman. I'm from around Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
How'd you guys end up qualifying for this tournament?
So we fished. It was at Lake Oneida in New York. There was a qualifier. What was it?
SAF.
SAF qualifier. There's only like 10 boats. It was a small northern one, and we ended up winning. Obviously, we had like 18 and a half pounds. A smallmouth. So, and then we won that. And then we qualified for Hartwell. So, yeah.
Wow. To go from, I saw something too about how you guys fished World Finals in 2021 as freshmen. That was also at Lake Hartwell, and from the articles on Major League Fishing, it said that you guys just fell in love with the lake and ended up fishing it every summer. So talk to me a little bit about that tournament in 2021 and kind of what made you fall in love with the herring style, or if it was something specifically about Lake Hartwell, because, I mean, talking about living in Pennsylvania, obviously there's not herring up there, and that's a totally different style of fishing. And to go from winning a tournament at Oneida to then going down to Lake Hartwell and winning that tournament, doing something completely different away from your home. Just talk to me about how you fell in love with that. If it, like I said, if you fell in love with just the herring style or Lake Hartwell specifically, and how that tournament in 2021 went for you guys. Because I saw you had a 13th place finish, which is also an incredible finish.
2021 we went down there. We were qualified for both national and worlds, and that was the first time ever like hearing Lake Hartwell and herring. Like, what is that? Like, how do you fish? How those, like, people talk about spots in school, and you're like, oh my, like, how do we got to tackle this? So went down 2021. We put our time in. We figured some stuff out. That was running live scope and herring, chasing schoolers. Pretty much that's what we did on points. And we had, obviously had a good finish, 13th. We didn't do as well on the national side, but we had a rally value on day 3, which pushed us into day four worlds. And as the tournament progressed, we just got more and more dialed in on the herring bite. So
Yeah, that tournament, I think, was pretty much our first time ever using live scope. Like, we were a little bit late to the game. We kind of had it, but it never really played. We could never really get it dialed in, and then we knew going down there it was going to play a lot more. So we kind of just figured out more and more on how to use it as we went by in that tournament, and that really helped.
Yeah, I believe it. So is there something specifically about just herring fishing that you guys fell in love with, and using live scope and chasing those bait eaters? Is that something you guys just really enjoy doing?
It's spotted bass. I mean, they're so aggressive. The way they school with like 30, 40 of them, and when you throw out there and you watch 30 or 40 spotted bass come up, all shoot up off a brush pile off the bottom towards your bait on top, there is absolutely nothing like it. When they blow your bait out of the water, it's just, you can't replicate it really. Up north where we fish, there's nothing like it. It's just a completely different style, and you can't get tired of it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I saw too that you guys have been down there every summer since 2021. Is that something you guys look forward to every summer, going down and fishing Hartwell? And do you think that played a lot into your guys' win a couple weeks ago here in this national championship?
The knowledge 100% played. I haven't been able to make it down every year with him. I got down last year, I think. But 100%, the waypoints played, like the knowledge of just knowing how fast we have to go and having knowledge of baits and just like little things we can do to get one extra bite a day or one bigger bite, that 100% played.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I believe it. So for you guys fishing together in high school, have you guys fished together all of your high school careers? That's something that was more recent, and how did that come to be, where you guys ended up fishing together for high school?
We started fishing together, what was it, 6th grade? 7th grade?
7th grade.
7th grade together. Fished up to the junior circuit, and then we entered high school. But yeah, our entire careers we fished together, and we've just, I don't know, we've really been able to function, and we've been very successful. You know, we work as a team out there, and we have a common goal and objective of the day, so we just put our heads down and go fish together.
Right, it's clearly worked out pretty well for you guys with national champions behind your name now. But what team do you guys actually fish for in high school? And do you have, like, what's the team dynamic like? Do you have a coach? How many teams do you guys have? Do you guys have a lot of sponsors that support you guys, or is it kind of just a you guys fish for your club kind of thing?
Yeah, our club is kind of not really a club. Neither of our schools would have a team, and we were already fishing together at that point in like some local tournaments, like some local high school tournament. So we just created our own. We knew a guy who through TBF was like able to help us get through that. We just created our own, and we were the only ever 2 members of that team. No sponsors, no, like, just doing it all by ourselves.
Yeah.
That's cool. Something different to not have an actual team and just you guys kind of riding out solo all together, I guess, but solo as a team, and ended up making it that far. Something cool, because I know a lot of the high school teams end up getting a bunch of teams and have coaches.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially get funded by sponsors, and
you get down there and you'll see like 10, 20 teams walking around with the same jersey. It's like, that's a lot of information being shared right there.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to compete with that?
Right. Yeah, and that continues into college. Like on our side, you have, I fish for Ohio State, and we get 2-3 teams down to a tournament, and then you get down there against like the Montevellos of college, and they have the 15 teams. You're like, how am I supposed to do this? But it all comes down to you guys ended up having a more knowledge of the lake, and obviously a better week than anybody else on the water. And
yeah,
it's crazy having 400 something boats on the water. I still can't believe that. They do the same for the Bass Natty, and I just, every time that blows my mind when I see that for high school. I'm like, that is just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, Hartwell, I guess, is probably the place to do it. There's probably a ton of places to fish on that lake, but it almost seems like getting in the right rotation there is huge, and I'm sure that was probably frustrating a little bit with so many boats on the lake.
Yeah, the last day of practice, we were trying to just do a milk run, because we already knew where all we wanted to go. It was just a matter of like showing our boat captain how to get there and how fast and stuff. And I think it was 23 spots before we got on a place to fish.
Yeah.
I think it was bad.
It was crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
23 spots, just full boat on everyone.
Yeah.
That's something. So how do you guys have a lot of confidence on Hartwell going into this tournament from 2021 and your previous summers? And then were you super excited when you found out that you qualified and that they announced that it was going to be on Hartwell? Was that like a super exciting moment, like we might be able to do this type of thing?
Yeah, we went down pre-practice before cutoff, and through that in the past summers, we had the baits, we had the spots. We're like, we were pretty confident that we could at least be successful, and we were shooting for top 10 in nationals. We knew that we were on the fish, but to come out with a win, everything really had to go right for us, and it did. So it was great, but yeah, the confidence, it was pretty high.
Yeah, like you said, the confidence was definitely high going in. It was just a matter of with a tournament of that many boats and fishing herring fish, there's so many things that can go wrong. They can jump over it, blow it out of the water, just plain miss it. Like, it's a matter of everything going right, and you have to have the knowledge. But yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, like you said, to win a tournament of that caliber, it's like the stereotypical thing to hear that everything has to go your way, and it's good to hear that everything did go your way. It clearly did, and I'm excited to hear once we dive into the actual tournament days, like an in-depth breakdown of that. That'll be super cool. But as you just mentioned that you guys went down for pre-practice for the cutoff, kind of talk to me about that and through that a little bit. Was that a lot of just graphing? Was that a lot of running spots you already had from previous years? What did that kind of look like, and what was your goal going into pre-practice?
Yeah,
for knowing you had the tournament coming up.
We started running those spots we already had, and through that we found you know, they were on brush, obviously. So we're like, okay, they're here, they're here, they're here. And then we started looking at points, not with brush, just schooling points. And we're like, okay, they're kind of watered up on these. Like they're actively feeding. We're like, we got to pay attention to this. So once we kind of dialed in where they're sitting, you could literally go to the map, look, and say, okay, they're got to be here, 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 and then you ran there, and there they are. So you're like, okay, wow. So I mean, it cut down time of practice so much by being able to not even go there and know that they're already to be there to go and look. And we were able to take that and run with it, and we checked so much stuff. Like honestly, you kind of ran out of stuff to fish by the time practice ended official, and we had waypoints. We had so many waypoints.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
And truthfully, in official practice, I mean, we would roll up, like check a couple points. We might have checked in practice 15 like new places a day, like, and it was they might be here. Like it kind of looks decent. We should probably check it just to be sure, but. In pre-practice, we ran out of points to fish. We just ran out of humps. We ran out of points. We ran out of places. Everything was checked.
I guess that's a good problem to have, knowing that having that much confidence in the spots you had and knowing the work you guys put in before really worked out. Yeah. But going into practice from pre-practice, did a lot of the spots you found in pre-practice end up holding up through practice too?
Yeah, big time. A couple schooling spots with pressure, they slid off and they weren't there, but majority brush piles and schooling spots near down the dam, they held up big time, and they really throughout the tournament, they had like 3 or 4 spots where they were key. We had some key fish off each spot like every day that really helped us out. So, and I don't know, I think it was just a mixture of there's more bait in that area, it's set up better, the brush, there might have been less pressure near the dam, but just through that, there was a couple key spots and we found and just ran with it.
Yeah, it's cool for that to actually hold up. So now we're going into practice. How long did you guys have practice for that tournament?
Official practice was 2.5 days. I think it was Sunday, Monday, and then a half day Tuesday before the meeting. We had to be off the water by 12.
Gotcha. So you had pre-practice. You go and you have 2.5 days of practice. It sounds like you guys almost ran out of stuff to fish, and you only checked 15-ish spots a day. Was that something you'd pull up and kind of just live scope around and be like, they're here? Or is that something you'd pull up and catch one to kind of get a gauge of size? I mean, I know size of schooling fish is kind of obviously varies within the school, and half the game is getting that bigger bite out of the school instead of just catching those normal 1.5 pound, 1 pound fish, So how did that look in practice? Is that something, like I said, that you guys did fish a decent amount or just kind of scoped around to get a feel of what was in what areas?
Yeah, pretty much all the pre-practice and practice was the same thing. We just went around with scope, just kind of looked around. Like you said, a lot of those schools, it's just a matter of getting the bigger bites. We would fish from a couple of the roaming schools a day just to keep our live scope, just how we're casting, how we're getting everything done. Just keep that fresh and going into the tournament. Because we hadn't done it too much in pre-practice, but we didn't really fish that much. It was more just making sure they were still there.
Right, especially with 400 something boats of pressure. I'm sure you didn't want to pressure your schools any more than needed to be. Do you guys think that your spots that you had from pre-practice and practice were getting pressured by a bunch of other guys, or do you think that they were a little bit of sneakier spots that you found that weren't getting as much pressure?
All of our spots were pretty well main lake. It was just a matter of just running more of them and having better baits and just knowing how to target them better. Because, a lot of our stuff in practice, we saw people on, or during the tournament, we'd pull up. After we'd watch people go and fish it, we'd pull up behind them and still catch them.
Yeah, it's kind of how it seems like those herring fisheries end up being. And did you guys have a specific rotation of spots going into the tournament? That I want to hit this spot first, this spot second? Or was that something you kind of just ran around and your goal was to find the first spot, one of your first spots open that didn't have a boat? I mean, I know you already talked about it took you 23 spots in practice to find get on your first spot with your boat captain. So was that, like I said, was that something that you had a plan of, or was that kind of just feel it out first day of the tournament morning?
Yeah, so going into it, we did have a plan of a couple of specific spots, schooling spots we wanted to hit, but in day one, that did work. We dropped a big bag, we had 12-2, and that's what we did hit. We hit schooling spots quick, and they were there. But as days 2, 3, and 4 went, the fish, they started to feel the pressure, so they kind of slid off those spots. So we had to kind of adjust our rotation accordingly to that, and had to fish more brush pile stuff back in a little bit. But I mean, we just had to keep live scoping and checking them, and we checked them one day and we knew they were there, so we figured they'll probably be here tomorrow. So then we just went off that and just picked where to go.
It's the way to do it, apparently. It clearly worked for you guys. But so were you guys pretty confident after both pre-practice and practice going into the tournament? Did you know the size of fish that you were on? Were you confident that it would be enough to win, or did you not really know kind of what other people were on, what it might take to win at that point?
Honestly, we figured it would take a lot higher weights than it did. I think 29.15 was our final weight. We were thinking it would be closer to like 34, 36 maybe. Because what we found in pre-practice was there was a lot more big largemouth out there than there were when we were down here in 2021. So we thought it might not be that hard to connect with 3 of those during the tournament. But from pre-practice to only 2 weeks later, it seems like a lot of the big largemouth, they just kind of disappeared. We had a school of big ones, but a lot of them just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, that's cool. So now we're talking day 1 of the tournament. Obviously, there's, 3 days? Were there 3 days of nationals and the last day was worlds?
Yes.
Is that how that worked?
Yep.
Okay. So you're sitting there first day of nationals. Kind of talk me through, just in as much detail as you can, through the tournament morning until the end of the day. You guys were sitting in second place, I believe, with 12-2.
Yeah.
And I saw you guys had a 4-11 spot, that's a pretty dang big spot for anywhere.
For Hartwell.
So just talk me through kind of how that day went, and just tell me how it went.
All right, so day 1, what we were your high boat number?
387.
We were both 387 or 451. So knowing our high boat number, we figured there's got to be people on the majority of our stuff going down the lake. And as we took off and ran down, we're like, yeah, there's people here. So we ended up getting our first rotation. It was down near the dam, and we hit a couple spots. We had a decent limit, like 9 pounds, pretty quick on three 3-pound spots, and then that was till about 8:30, and then we rolled up to this one brush pile near the dam and threw in there. Actually made a bad cast, first cast. I think kind of brought the school out like a little bit. They rose up off the brush pile and then reeled it in, made another cast over the brush pile, the school, and here they came. And it was a 411 spot, and that was like 8:39. So we obviously connected this 411 spot. We're like, cool. Like, you get a 411 spot there, that's a giant, and you can build off that. So we get that in the boat. That gave us like 10 pounds. We're like, wow. We figured if we could get 12 a day, we'd be good. So we had 10 by 9. We were like, okay, we're gonna make something happen today. And then we ran a couple more spots, and then we ran up to this one hump, and they were actively chasing bait. And we're like, okay, like they're here. And we panned the live scope up on the hump, and there's like 20 or 30 of them, and they're like sitting right below the water, like they just got done feeding on bait. So me and Trent, we cast in there. We doubled up. We had a 313 largemouth and a 36, doubled up, and we got them in the boat. We called 2 spots out, so we had a 3.6, 3.13, and a 4.11 spot, and we looked at each other like,
that went pretty good.
Yeah, we're like, and that was like at 10:30, and we're like, and we didn't check-in wasn't until 4:15 for us. We're like, oh my god, like we shouldn't go pressure our stuff anymore. Like, we got our goal weight for day 1, so we just kind of fished around for the rest of the day. Caught a couple more 3-pounders, nothing crazy. We didn't make any more calls, and then obviously fish care, fish health, spotted bass, they can die pretty easily. So we ended up checking in early at, what was it, 1:15?
Yeah, we checked in at like 1:15. We were one of like
3 hours early.
We were one of like the first 20 boats to weigh in that day.
Yeah.
Coming out of boat number 387, that'd be almost like a good feeling to know you're like, yeah, I already caught him for the day. It's on to the next day. And
the lady there,
was it? Did you?
She was a little confused because everybody else was like 1, 12, 7. I'm like 387. She was looking at me, kind of looked down, looked back at me. She's like, you got to check in, right? I was like, yeah, we're good.
Like, we got him, we're good.
Yeah.
Trust me. Yeah, that had to be a pretty cool feeling there, and that's crazy. You guys doubled up off that hump, but two of the 3 you guys weighed in. Were both those largemouth? No, you said one of them was a spot, right?
The 411 was the spot, and then the 2 that we doubled up on were both largemouth.
Yeah, both largemouth.
The 2 double. Did you know the fish on that hump were largemouth or?
No.
No.
It's a guessing.
That's cool. That's like, yeah. That's like one of the hard things. I feel like you said. I feel like around the herring spawn, those largemouth, and it mixing in a lot more of the spots. And then as that year progresses, it's a lot harder to find. Like, the largemouth seem to spread out a little more in chasing those herring around, and to double up on 2 3+ pound largemouth, not even 3+, like one's almost 4.
Yeah.
3.5 and 4 pound largemouth almost that's like a blessing. And then, like, I mean, a 411 spot, that's a freak.
Yeah.
You guys had to be freaking out about that.
Just a little bit. It was a little concerning during the fight because the wind blowing us over this pile, and I'm watching the fish dig down in the pile on live scope, and he's on the back of the deck fighting it. I'm just waiting for it to break off, and then I see it start coming back up on scope, and I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, that's scary. And you're like, did you know the quality of fish at that point?
Yeah, you watched it eat, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw it eat. He had a little one come up on his bait and miss it, and I just see this giant like silver and green flash eat it, and I'm like, oh, that one was giant. That one for sure missed it. And I just see him bow up and go big, and I'm like, huh,
Got her.
he did get it.
Yeah.
You're like, that's one of the ones we need. Before we dive into baits, did the baits you guys used throughout the whole tournament, were they all the same?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll dive into that after we get through all 4 days of this. But so you guys are sitting in second place with 12-2. With originally, did you guys think you were leading? I saw the headline saying that you guys were leading, and there ended up being an error saying there was actually a 12-8 pound bag weighed in. So you guys thought you were leading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did it feel knowing you or thinking at least knowing you were leading really in second? How did that feel going into day 2? Did that put more pressure on you guys, more nerves? Like, did you think you'd be able to replicate it, knowing how many spots and waypoints you had, or were you guys still just calm, cool, and collected, knowing that that was only day 2 of 4? You just finished day 1, obviously, and you have a lot more time to fish. You know what I mean?
It was definitely a mix. Like, it was good to know we were up there to begin with, but it was also like, all right, it was just day 1. We could still go out and have a terrible day today and really screw ourselves. So I would say it was a pretty good mix of excited and still like we got to go out there today and still catch them.
Right. So what I see from day 2, you guys had 3 fish limit for 8-10. So talk to me a little bit about the same thing you guys just did for day 1. Walk me through day 2. Like I said, going into it in second place, you guys probably had a better boat number. How did that go? Did you run back to those spots you already fished, rotate new stuff? Whatever you guys have to say about that.
Yeah, so day 2, the boat numbers were flipped. So we were like boat number 80 something going out. So we knew we'd have a better choice of spots. Well, we ran a couple schooling points and they were already off them. We pulled up to one hump, probably 7:30, and we doubled up with, I don't know, they were like 2.5 pounders. I told the cameraman we need to get rid of them. We ended up weighing them in, but it was a lot different day. The bite was a lot tougher. I think the conditions changed on us a lot. The pressure was starting to get to them. We just never got many bites that day. We never got a big bite. I think our big was what, like...
Was that the split ring? We talk about that.
Yeah, that was day 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, we caught those 2, and we ran out of the dam. We were scoping around. We saw them come up blowing up in front of us. I threw a shower blow out there about as far as I could. I made one walk with it. I had a giant come up and eat it, just suck it down. I set the hook and immediately started pulling drag. I turned her. She started coming at the boat, and somehow the treble hook came off the split ring, about a 5.5 pound largemouth.
Right at the boat.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy because I've only had that happen to me one time, and it was the last time I was at Hartwell.
That's the only thing that ever happened to me.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know how. I never did see the fish that. I mean, I know it was a spot, or it might have been a largemouth for all I know. I never did see the fish. I know we were around schooling fish of some sort, and yeah, same thing. I threw my top water over there, ate it, and then it popped off. I'm like, oh, I lost it. And I came back and my whole treble hook was gone. I said, what? That's crazy that happened to you guys.
Yeah.
That had to be a little painful.
Yeah, it was extremely painful because we knew that was like, we had the bag builder yesterday. We had that 411. I mean, I knew that was the bag builder today. I mean, 5.5, like 5+ pound bites, 4+ pound bites. They just don't come at Hartwell. So to lose one of that size when you think you're leading a national championship, I freaked out a little bit on camera. You'll see that, but it was just a tough day overall. We ran around. We never really got any more big bites.
3-6.
Yeah, we had 136. Where did that one even come off of?
That was damn. Right before you got the big one.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
I guess it came up. We had a little pile marked, and it was just kind of a big flat, and I caught the 3-6 off the pile, and then that one came off, and we never really got any more bites the rest of the day. I mean, we caught some 12 inchers, but never lost any call fish. I mean, just never got bites. It was rough the second day. I mean, weights really reflected that. There was not but maybe 3 bags over 10 pounds, and one of them was 14. They had a 7.5-pound kicker.
That's nuts. I have 2 questions about the day. The first question: what time was it that you lost that fish, and how'd you end up rebounding? Like for the rest of the day, knowing that you lost a fish that you thought might end up costing you the tournament at that point. I mean, I know it's only day 2. You still have another day, but losing a 5.5 pounder when you're talking a 3 fish limit and you have 8.5 pounds in the live well, like that's, like you said, that's the kicker fish you need. So how'd you end up rebounding from that on day 2?
Yeah, it was like 9 o'clock when we
Yeah.
lost that. It was pretty early in the day. I mean, I just kept telling myself we still got time, and we're going into it. We're leading it. Like I think we had a pound 1 ounce lead going into day 2. So I was like, we just need to catch enough to get there. I just kind of put it behind me. I knew there was nothing I could do at that point besides try and catch what was left in front of me.
Right. And then my second question about the day was, you mentioned that conditions changed along with pressure, but what were the conditions on day 1 compared to day 2 that you think ended up making it tougher?
Day 1, it was a little bit cloudy and it was windier, and then day 2, the wind just totally died.
It was sunny.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it just slicked off, and that from what I've heard, it definitely will hurt that bite a little bit, especially when you're doing that whole schooling and brush pile deal that you guys were doing. So
Yeah, they wouldn't chase as much for sure.
right. Were you guys leading going into day 3 then?
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
12-2 and then 8-10.
13.
Okay, so now you're leading going into day 3.
Yeah.
So you have another camera guy going in. This is the final day of the national championship, right?
Okay. This is it. Yeah.
So final day. This is, yep, like you said, this is it. The last chance for you guys to go run your spots, and almost in a sense, take the work you guys have put in from the past couple of years and get that redemption from 2021 when you guys were freshmen, and last high school tournament, that had to be a pretty nerve-wracking and super exciting feeling at the same time that you talked about from day 2, but even more going into day 3. Like I said, knowing it's your last high school tournament, knowing you're actually officially in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
So did that get you guys at all? Or was that something you were just at this point put it behind you and know what you guys had to do to get out there and catch them again?
Yeah, I would say there are obviously there's some nerves going on, but it wasn't really anything crazy. Like we knew what we had to do. We knew that we could make it happen, so we just went out and fished, and I don't know, just trying to stay cool and calm and collected throughout the day. And I mean, we can only do what we can do. Like we just have to make it happen. So just went out and fished.
Right. So
Day fishing.
yeah, of course. So as you guys just did for the first 2 days, final day, high school national championship coming up here. How did that day go?
Yeah.
Ended up weighing 9 pounds, 3 ounces.
Yep.
To get you guys the lead. So how did that go?
Obviously we had 9 pounds 3 ounces. It's pretty good. We ran our normal rotation, same stuff. We started out, and I think early in the morning we had one spot right around 3 pounds. We got that in the boat, and obviously take a little bit of nerves off knowing you have 1 3-pounder. Our goal weight going to that day was, looking at the bag weights, was about 10 pounds. We thought if we could get around 10 pounds, we had a 13-ounce lead going into that day, so we figured if we could get 10 pounds, we'd probably be pretty comfortable that we thought we could take it home. So ran down the dam again, had a 3-pounder. I think we had a pretty good lull for a while, and then we ran up one hump. The same hump, actually, it was the same hump where we caught the 313 and the 3.6 largemouth on day 1. That hump was probably the most important spot for the tournament.
100%.
For sure. We ran there day 3, and we caught, I think, Trent, you caught a
3.7.
3.7. He caught a 3.7 spot off the hump. And after that, we're like, okay.
One more.
Yeah, we need one more. Like, we got a 3.2, we got a 3.7. Like, we need one more bite. And we fish.
We still had like a 2-pounder in the bag, so yeah, we still had a real little one in the bag, so we knew we definitely needed to get rid of that one if we wanted a shot.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, continue. So you guys had those two good ones from your morning, and then did you guys end up calling out that 2-pounder? Was that something that you guys were able to do?
yeah, so it was a 2-pound even, and then we fished around for a while, and
We were running out of gas.
yeah, oh my god, yeah. Day 3 was kind of crazy. We were like on E at like 11 o'clock. Like day 1 and 2, we didn't really have to burn that much. Well, day 1 we didn't have to burn like any fuel because it happened pretty quick. And day 2 we ran around a decent bit, but we didn't burn much fuel. And I think we started day 3 with like half a tank, and by like 11 o'clock we were
we had like 3/4.
yeah, by 11 o'clock we were like on E. So we were kind of stressing even if we could get back at that point to weigh these fish in. But we rolled up to this one hump that we actually never even fished before. We never fished this spot because there was we were in an area where we had a bunch of spots, but there's people and everything. So we're like, okay, we'll just go here. And we ended up rolling up there, and there was a school. I think there was a school like 6 or 8 of on this hump, just cruising, looking for bait, and threw a little spark shad out there, 3-2 inch, and a 2-8 ate it, just randomly. And throwing that spark shad throughout practice, you'd have so many followers, but not many commit. And that one ate it and got that on the boat, and that was an 8-ounce call. And we kind of looked at each other like, dang, like, wow, that really just happened.
And the conditions were really tough that day. Like, we could tell, like, they weren't following the base very hard. Like, we went into it thinking 10 pounds what we needed, and as we kind of went on, it was kind of like, all right, maybe it's not going to be 10, maybe it's going to be like 9. And we figured weights would drop a little bit once we started seeing how the conditions were shaping up.
Yeah. So.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we got that one, and then
that call, we kind of looked at each other, and I am the most down person. Like, you can ask him. Day 2, when we were in the bag line, I told him we're not going to make the cut. Like, I was thoroughly convinced we were not going to make the cut. I never think we're going to win. I never think we're going to get a cut. I just don't think it's going to go for us. And when we caught that one, I got a feeling, and I was like, I never get a feeling, so maybe this is actually going to happen.
That'd be a pretty special feeling in the national championship. Out of any time you ever get it, to be in such a huge tournament, that's something. I don't even know how else to put it.
I finally know what that feeling feels.
Yeah, you're like, I need to feel this more. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, you guys ended up weighing 9 pounds 3 ounces and taking home the wins. That had to be a pretty special moment for you guys, and congrats again on that. That has to be something you guys will obviously never forget. And so, talk to me a little bit. We didn't touch on baits at all. So, what were you guys' key baits for the tournament all 3 days?
All our fish, but that 1-2-8 on the last day came with a super fluke. Every single one.
Zoom super fluke.
Just throw in that joker, rip him as fast as you can, and keep it away from him. They see it at all, you're done.
Yeah.
That's good. So was that something that you think a lot of guys didn't work it like you guys did? You think got played key and just burning it across the surface for you guys to get those actual bites?
Yeah. Obviously, don't have to get completely into detail because we'll still have more tournaments down there, so I don't have to give away everything. But there's a special little way to rig it that kind of differed from everybody else to get those key bites and get more bites and get them to chase better. So with that, we kind of felt like we had a different pattern. I mean, I'm sure everybody will be able they'll see it on national television whenever they air it, how we were rigging it. But doing that, we felt like, I don't know if anybody else is rigging it that way in the tournament at all. And with that was our confidence. Like, we just keep this in our hand, throw this out there, and we say grind. And they're going to come and they're going to get it. So
yeah, the first day I was trying to mix in a spark shad with what he was throwing, because in practice we could kind of do it where if he threw that and I threw a spark shad, if he drew him up, I could get him to eat that. Because if you threw a spark shad in there regularly, they would just follow it. But if you get them to fire on something else, they'd eat that a lot. The first day, they just would not eat mine. So we both started throwing that, and it worked out.
Yeah.
Well, sorry for the inconvenience, but Trent and Josh actually ended up losing connection. They were up at a hotel practicing for a BFL in Oneida, so they did not have the best connection, and their audio ended up cutting out. So I'm just going to give you a little summary of the last couple questions. They pretty much ran completely through the tournament, and you guys now know how they caught them and more about their experience on Hartwell. But pretty much after that, we just went into, how they got into fishing and things of that sort. And they actually started fishing together in 6th grade. And they're both seniors now, so they've been fishing together for a decent amount of time. And that, the confidence they built together definitely played in that tournament. So I also asked them one piece of advice for other high schoolers or youth anglers that are looking to get into the fishing scene. And both of them, they just gave the sort of generic answer of just putting more time in the water. And they acknowledged it was the cliche answer, but they also just said, dedicating so much time in the water is something that really allowed them to have their success and win on such a huge scale at the national championship. And it's super cool because Trent is actually committed to go fish at Lander next year and fish the whole college scene, while Josh, he's not going to college, but he's going to be jumping in the BF Bells and Toyota Series. So that'll be something that we're wishing them both success in doing, and we're really happy to have them on the show. So hopefully we get to talk to them again at some point or win a big tournament, either one of those Toyotas or something for Josh, or fish in the college series tournament for Trent. So we really appreciate them having them on, and excited to talk to them again.